there's the realization of understanding that how you treat yourself, how much you love yourself, how much you respect yourself, that's basically how you show up and how you teach and show people how to treat you, how to respect you by the way that you respect yourself, by the way that you show up to yourself.
Aside from my soul. Welcome to the Inspired Evolution. This is an episode for your mind. We have with us Luke Mind Power. How are we, sir?
Good, man. How you doing?
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
Good. Oh, bro, such a pleasure to have you on. For those tuning in to Luke for the first time, obviously the Luke Mind Power podcast, worth checking out. He's here to help you how to learn to love yourself. Now, that can be quite, how do I say this? A bit of a soft and gooey sort of feeling-ish sort of thing. And when I tune into what you're up to in the world, bro, we get blokey bloke vibes. You're definitely not the first person that I would be like, oh yeah, Luke's talking to me about self-love. So I wanted to tune in and sort of see, how did this become so important to you and your walk in life? Like, where did this self-love stuff drop in, man? Because it runs the risk of being fluffy, and you don't come across as fluffy to me.
Yeah, good question. But before we go into that, can I just ask you a question? Because I've come from a really programmed and conditioned mind to judge people, and I just want to know exactly what you mean or how you express yourself when you start the podcast and you do that introduction. What is that? Because when I first saw it, I was like, "Who's this inspired evolution? Let me have a look." And every podcast you do it, and I'm like, "Well, the one thing that we do as humans is we judge people. We always judge what we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately there's an automatic judgment of like, what the fuck is he doing? Right? So what is that?
So can I wait?
Have you ever answered that question, Tim?
Can I ask your question?
The audience?
Is this episode just about you finding out about the you?
Yeah, man. I just thought that's all I'm here for. I just want to know what that is. I'm done. Once I know what that is, man, I'm out of here.
Okay, got it. Then I'll take my time answering because we've got a long episode to tune into. Yeah, no. So thanks for asking. It's actually really interesting because one of your videos that went viral, we were talking about this at the beginning. I saw that I only discovered that, I already know, Luke, because I remember seeing the caption to the video about you basically doing what's in your heart. I'm paraphrasing and butchering it to the nth degree, so pardon me for that. But it's you basically just sitting there and taking out and doing the Melbourne Shuffle. The you was actually birthed out of way back when now. We used to go along to music festivals and have an amazing time with my mates, basically. Unfortunate to say, actually, that really those mates aren't my mates anymore. But nonetheless, we used to go along and have this awesome time. And one of sometimes the music, and it was mostly house, progressive house, trance music, the beat would rise and we'd get so into it. At a certain point, just before it dropped, it was like, and I'd just get totally into it. At that point, because it was so loud and my mates were literally in a crowd, but I would just try and be as loud as obnoxious as possible, they would turn around to me and be like, "Look, mate, stop. You can do anything around here, but you can't do that." Yeah. And it's really interesting that you bring that up because we talk about self-love, and that was actually me dropping into, hey, I'm a do me,
Yeah.
I'm a love that expression of me, no matter what you have to think about it, no matter what, your story is around it. That's me being me. And so it became interesting when I started a podcast because, it was intuitive. It was just like, this is where we're going to start. This is what we're going to do with it. And I found it really interesting because even through the journey of the last 5 years of being on a podcast, I've found myself interviewing some, I guess this is judgments on my behalf, but older people, to put it politely. And I can see that it definitely ruffled their sensibilities to have someone interviewing starting the podcast with something like that. But nonetheless, it's my truth. And I sort of rock up and I just you away. And that's the start of the Inspired
Yeah,
Evolution
because
podcast.
I looked at Marissa Peer and I was like, I thought, shit, what is she thinking? She's like, who is this bloke? But no, man, that's the whole purpose of being yourself and being able to express yourself and do whatever you want. And there's freedom and liberation in that. And that's the more that you can step into that authentic power, that's you give inspiration to other people who are out there who are holding in their authenticity, and I think that's the best gift that you can give humanity, is to be yourself, because you then inspire others to go, well, if he can do that, why can't I be more authentic or real and show up in, holding on to the things that I'm normally used to doing, but I don't want to do them because people will laugh at me or my family's going to think I'm crazy or whatever. And it's like, man, call me crazy, but if I can be crazy, then I can be me, then there's nothing else better to be.
It's interesting that, isn't it? Because yeah, I was going to tap into this because one of the quotes on your Instagram that really struck a really deep chord with me was the people who invest in you least will have the most to say about you. Trust the process, keep your circle tight. And I reflect upon my own personal development journey that really, when I got really conscious about who was in my circle and what was guiding me, that really was there's been many points of transformation, but that was a real tipping point where I started really understanding that who was in my tribe was really what my vibe was reflecting about me. Does that echo some point of your own transformation when it comes to self-love? Like what? Yeah, I'm still conscious of, you've asked me about the you, but what does self-love mean to you?
Yeah. Let's do that. Go deeper into that truth. But again, it's great that I asked you, because you said that something that I resonate with, and you said that a lot of my friends who used to be my friends are not my friends anymore. And I've had a similar journey where I was surrounded by a specific culture, lifestyle, friends, parties, and living the life like what I thought was life anyway, but very coming from a really insecure place, coming from a place of not really understanding and appreciating my own emotions, feelings, very unconscious, very egoistic, but because of my lack of self-esteem and confidence in myself, naturally what happens is you just kind of are easily influenced by people around you.
Do you think that part of the journey is a necessary part of the journey though, bro? Because there's that, what I'm hearing you say is we herd in. Yeah, we go along with the herd. And until we have that and at the risk of sounding like I've got it all figured out, until we start to develop some level of self-awareness where we really start to identify who we are as an individual, the best we've got is the kind of herd mentality, right? And that comes back to that our tribe is our vibe sort of question. It's like, before if we can't become self-aware, at least look at ourselves through the community around us. Do you think that is part of the process, like for most of us?
Yeah, man. I mean, I just think about it now and I'm like, there was no self-awareness. I just, I 24, unemployed, looking for a job, living in Glebe in the inner city with a mate. And my sister found me a traineeship with the government department for $24,000 a year. And it was either that or go to the army or the Air Force. I didn't know what to do. I think that's the hardest part, is trying to figure it out. It's like you don't know. Like it seems like a lot of people, or teenagers, get to year 10, 11, and 12, and then some of them just maybe inspired by their parents, for example, to go in a specific direction, to go to university or to do a trade. And for me, it wasn't like that. It was just like, I didn't like school. I wasn't good at it. I mean, my marks were shit. I was the one getting in trouble all the time. Coupled with year 10, I wasn't allowed to go to year 11 and 12 because the school that I was going to, you had to get a specific ranking.
Mm.
So rejection, right? So where do I go? Go and do at a program called Beckett program, which was to learn how to be a carpenter, right? Do carpentry. And I did that for a year, and then I didn't know what to do after that because I didn't want to do building. I didn't want to build cabinets and shit. So my sister said, hey, why don't you go back to finish your HSC? Okay, so I went back to TAFE. 2 years in TAFE, again, 50% was my, I think they just put 50% just to say that, you passed. But again, it's like you're trying to find yourself, but you don't know who you are. And it's kind of like some of us go in a specific direction and then the others are kind of left to kind of figure it out. And I feel like maybe that's just how my life was supposed to evolve. I was left to be influenced by everybody else, kind of lose myself in what everybody else is doing, compare myself for many years, and then get to a point where you're just like, there's got to be something more. This can't be it. So it's not easy, but that's where self-love comes in, because it's more than just, me, especially from a masculine point of view, because I know that, it can be seen as a more of a feminine thing, love yourself, but when it comes from a masculine point of view, it's kind of like, that's stupid. What are you talking about? And I used to be like that. Right. I used to self-love, as if, but man, it saved me. And what is it? It's having your own freaking back. It's taking responsibility for your life. It's being authentic. It's being real. It's learning about yourself, about who it is that you really are. It's detaching and disconnecting yourself from the world so that you can figure yourself out, because we're bombarded with information left, right, and center. So we completely lose ourselves because we haven't spent enough time alone.
Yeah, I love that, having your own back. And there's a couple of things about that. And thank you so much for sharing your own journey, because I feel in some ways, and this is going to sound interesting, but in some ways we couldn't have had more different sort of upbringings. I think in some ways, like I was good Indian boy, very high grades, and like studious, and yet, graduated school top, like university top, and yet still the same pain points emerged though, which I think is the real interesting nexus in this conversation. Is there was still that, even though I was, let's just say intelligent, there was still this social IQ, this social desire to want to connect, want to link in, and not know, kind of with all of that, to still not know who I am, and still felt like, trying to fit in, and trying to do X, Y, and Z and everything to the nth degree to try and find myself in my social circles and community. And then, the people who invest least in you will have the most to say, but trust the process and keep your circle tight. I found once I started to really get aware of it's actually, I am just a mirror, like you described, and who I have reflecting back to me actually changes me to the nth degree. It was a really, really powerful realization. And as you're describing, I love the way it's you having your own back, because that can look like so many different things in so many different ways. And I think that therein lies one of the challenges I found with self-love as well, is it's not, the first thing that conjures to for my mind was like candles and baths and, fluffy slippers and a robe. And it was just like, when recently it's been like a massive intention that I've been working on, and I'll share openly why, because I recently became a father. And that's been a
Congratulations.
Thanks, Ray. It's been about 12 months. Absolutely right. Touch wood. And I noticed in my downtime, like that when I was tired and sleep deprived, I would speak to my family the same way I would speak to myself internally. And even with having had a meditation practice of longer than I can remember now, more than 5, 7 longer years, it's been this, I found myself when I was tired, I was agitated. When I was agitated, I was short and curt. But that's how I was talking to myself. And then I would talk to my family about, yep, no, don't worry about it. All good. And I found that there was the fluff in my language was gone, but I didn't even recognize that. My wife reflected it back to me. She was like, "Can you see?" And I was like, "Actually, yeah, I can." And then I realized right then and there that that was the role modeling that I was doing for my son, right? Those were the patterns that he was observing. And it became really profound because that was one of the first real grounded moments that I had, was like the impetus to change, even just my dialogue with myself. Like I've always been conscious of the languaging, like NLP conversations, like the terms I use reflect, kind of where my mindset's at. But realizing that how I say what I say to me is so important, because when I'm left to my baseline sort of, vices, let's call it that, that impacts how I communicate to my family, because I take them for granted. And the interesting piece would be that I would be saying something to them like, yeah, no, don't worry about it, all good, right? Like curt, and not even that rude, but just short, not putting in too much energy effort. And someone would walk through my door that's a complete stranger, I'd be so polite, like, "Hello, welcome to our house. So nice to see you. How are you going? Thank you so much for the mail. See you next week. Thanks, bye." And there was a time to give all the embellishments into a complete stranger. But to the ones that you love the most, you take for granted. And I found I was being so curt to them that I realized if I just, it wasn't even like them that I was being curt to. I realized I was being curt to myself. And taking the time to cultivate self-kindness, communicating to myself with a little bit more extra love, a little bit of extra compassion, like sort of going, instead of when I, mess something up, going, "Oh, fuck, man," instead of going, "Yeah, that's all right. Like you sort of screwed that up. That's all right. We all do that," and just smile about it a little bit and move on. I realized that immediately when I started to think about how I was talking to myself, afford myself some more kindness, that started to transpire towards those that I was most intimate with as well, touch wood, and it really transformed how I was coming. And all of that to say, I clearly remember this conversation with a dear friend of mine when this first started precipitating. I was like, I'm starting to realize, and I'd love to get your thoughts on society and the way that it's framed us with regards to this self-love context, because especially as a bloke, background in construction, I remember speaking to a mate of mine and going, how weird is it that I can't say to you without like all this self-judgment that I love myself? And that actually in society, there's this term that like, "Oh, he loves himself." It's like actually this, "Oh, he loves himself." It's like the connotations that carries. What are your reflections on society and what that's built around us in regards to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember when I was younger, and I have this story, and I even think about whether or not it's real, but it sounds good. And I say that, I remember seeing this girl walking across the street, and she was looking at herself in the mirror, and I joked and I laughed at her and I said, "Look at her, she loves herself." And I think about that now, and I'm like, so what?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to live with you for the rest of your life.
Mm.
Why wouldn't you want to love yourself?
Mm.
Why wouldn't you want to have your own back? Why wouldn't you want to be your own best friend? Why wouldn't you want to, be proud of who you are and how you show up to the world? Why wouldn't you want to be authentic and real instead of wearing a mask and trying to freaking be like everybody else, or trying to hide your feelings and emotions to make other people happy? So there's the realization of understanding that how you treat yourself, how much you love yourself, how much you respect yourself, that's basically how you show up and how you teach and show people how to treat you, how to respect you, by the way that you respect yourself, by the way that you show up to yourself. If you have low standards and you don't have self-respect, well, then guess what? People are going to walk all over you. And that's one of the biggest problems with relationships, with people in relationships. They don't have fucking self-respect. They don't love themselves enough, so they cop shit. They don't trust themselves. They don't tune into their intuition. They don't feel those vibes. If something feels off, that's because it is. But they're not paying attention because they don't have that deeper, stronger, rooted connection with themselves. And they're easily influenced. Then they think that they're crazy when someone's telling them something that they don't think is true, but they tell them enough and they go, "Okay, you must be right. I'm wrong." Bullshit.
Yeah.
right? So we're missing this stronger connection with ourselves. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's something I never had,
Mm.
you know. And for me, it was my own self-sabotaging behavior. It was drug addiction. It was taking anabolic steroids because I had this physical appearance that I didn't like or didn't love, you know. So I was so self-conscious from a young age. And it only took my mum to say, you know, when I said, "Mum, can I play soccer? I want to play for the local soccer team." And she said, "No, you're too skinny, Luke. And when you go on the field, the other kids will break your bones." And it just took something so small like that when I was 13 or however old, just to reiterate or, you know, amplify my awareness that I'm different,
Mm.
that there's something wrong with me. And the thing is, I think I already knew it, because I was freaking really lanky, really skinny.
Mm.
So I felt different. I wore baggier clothes to try to fit in so that people couldn't see how skinny I was.
Mm.
Right. And I really struggled with that growing up as a teenager. I still into my late teens and all of my 20s, fucking so self-conscious of how I looked, the clothes that I was wearing. Did I look like I had a bit of an ass there? No, you know, no. And I'm just so conscious of it. Like if it didn't look good, no, those jeans are not for me. Got to get another pair. Got to get a pair that kind of makes me look a bit more rounded at the back.
Mm.
You know, so that like freaking just held me back so much because of my physical appearance. And not to mention, you know, people calling me names like lanky, skinny, you know, eat some more food so you can put on some weight. You know, having that low self-esteem then also meant that I never stood up for myself. I never spoke my truth. I allowed people to bully me and push me around when I was younger. So all of these experiences, and then women to top it off, rejections, you know, not attracting what I felt I deserved and wanted to attract in my life. And when I did, it still didn't work. It was like I was so insecure of myself that I, you know, I know that there's another term for this, but, you know, kind of like over love someone, like give yourself love,
Yeah,
someone, whatever it is.
overcompensating.
Give them that much of you that you completely, basically, you're not even you anymore, because you're doing whatever it takes to make that person happy. So you lose yourself in trying to please them. And that just clearly, I look at that now from an outside point of view, and I'm just like, wow, you're showing how insecure you are. Because I mean, there's nothing wrong with chasing a little bit, but you got to learn that, you know, it's give and take. Like you got to, when you give, there's something that's got to come back. If nothing comes back and you just keep giving and giving and giving, well, it's pretty clear that there's something off there. But again, I didn't have that awareness. So I went through a lot of different relationships where I got rejected as well. And, you know, what does that do to your self-esteem? Does that make you feel like you're enough?
Yeah.
It makes you feel like, yeah, man, it makes you feel like this. And, you know, I would have these thoughts of like, you're never going to meet the right person. It's never going to happen for you, man. You know, you're not good enough. You know, and I remember one night when I was snorting cocaine in my apartment in Sydney, in the inner city, and yeah, I had a suicidal thought. But I thought about my family and I was like, there's no way I'll do that. But it was there. It was like, what would it be like if I just killed myself? So, you know, there's a lot that I've had to go through to get to this point of like realizing that I got to do something different. You know, and it wasn't until, come back from my grandmother's funeral, and I was like, all right, I'm 33. I'm going to move to Poland.
Why
Quit my
Poland?
job. Well, that's my family's from. And it was just, my dad got me a passport, and I've got a Polish passport. So I was like, well, why don't you just go somewhere else, do something different? You know, I mean, the one thing that I always say now is like, no matter where you go, you still take yourself with you. So if you're emotionally hurt or traumatized, you're still taking your pain with you. You still got to do the work. You're going to get to that new destination, and then you're going to be happy for a week because you're in a new location, but then you're still going to be sitting with your own pain and your own thoughts. So, but yeah, that's kind of my take on that. But I know I kind of digressed there. But yeah, that's, this is where it comes from. And it's like, you can choose to be a victim, have that mentality. You can choose, and this is what this beautiful gift is. You can choose. You can decide that from today onwards, I'm going to start doing things differently in my life. I'm going to take a new path. I'm going to change. I'm going to invest in myself. And it's like, the best thing that I ever did was do a Mindvalley course. And it was a road that got me there. I was supposed to, I had this goal and the vision that I was going to open a gym in Poland. And come August 2018, I was on YouTube researching how to open a business, how to run a gym. And then I started seeing these Mindvalley ads. And I bought one program with Christy Marie Sheldon, Unblock Your Abundance Blocks. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And it's crazy because, like, you think about it now, because you're quite well aware of, personal development and all that stuff. And I think about it back then, I'm like, I didn't know shit about that. What it meant, what it was about, And so, because we've been in this space so much, you kind of sometimes forget about someone new who's just heard your podcast, or
all the stuff you take for granted.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about it now, like with my clients, I'm like, shit, some of these people have just met me, and I'm forgetting what it was like when I first started. I had no idea. And then I saw another ad for Speak and Inspire, which was with Lisa Nichols.
That's
and
a good
there was
one.
a masterclass.
She does really
Vishen.
well in that.
Yeah, there was a masterclass with Vishen, and I was like, I want to watch this, because I came to a realization, a point where I was like, well, Luke, if you want to open a gym, you're going to be the owner, manager, or you're going to be the person who is in charge. Well, if you want to do like group coaching or whatever, you're going to have to stand up in front of people. Like that's a leadership position, and you're the one that doesn't like doing that. You don't like speaking in front of people. So that got me to the point where I was like, well, how do you get better at speaking? How do you grow confidence in that? And funny enough, the universe presented me with the masterclass for Speak and Inspire. And after already investing in a few of these programs, I was like, man, if this is more than $500, I'm screwed, because I've got no money left. And it was like $300 or $400 US. And I was just like sold, man. I was like, this is it. I'm doing it. And I was like, I'm doing 3 programs at the same time. I paid $5,000 for a fitness instructor coaching program as well, because I was just on a mission, man. I was like, come on. I found something new, And this is the exciting part about like personal development, self-discovery, is you start leaning into things that feel aligned with what you want to do.
Your calling.
And then I got overwhelmed because I'd invested into too much. And so 1 week into doing Speak and Inspire, I was like, give me a refund. Christy Marie Sheldon from Mindvalley, not interested in that. And I tried to get a refund the other one, but I couldn't get a refund because there's no refunds. Because I knew after 1 week of doing that Speak and Inspire, that was mine. That was me. And I felt it. And I was like, this is what I want to focus on. And it took a month of being in that community, of surrounding myself with these people who I'd never met before. And basically I learned the law of reciprocity, the understanding of, when you give, you open the door to receive, because that's what you do in the community, is giving and receiving. You're giving, supporting people support you back. And kind of opened my, awareness to even my communication skills of like typing and supporting people, and realizing, wow, look how much I can share and how much I can give to others when I type, when I'm supporting people. So that expanded my awareness of that. But it was just having people believe in me when I didn't believe in myself, So it's pretty incredible that something like that can change my life so much. And 4 years later, I created my own program, which is called Speak and Transform. And it's very similar to the Mindvalley one, but it's with Luke Mindpower, So yeah, man, that's, and then the rest is history, man. Now it's just like, keep investing in yourself, keep growing, keep learning, keep becoming a better version of yourself, and help others do the same.
Yeah. There's a real potent piece in there that you shared as well about others believing in you when you can't believe in yourself. That, like, for those listening in, that's probably just a sentence or a phrase. But for someone that's been there, it's everything. It's absolutely everything, right? It's actually what inspired me to become, as you know, I do a lot of Mindvalley coaching on behalf of Mindvalley. But yeah, it's been such a potent piece, that piece, which is all I try to afford my coachees really at the end of the day is I know how transformative just that someone that goes, I can see you, you're already there. And meanwhile, you're trying to play it small and be like, no, 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 no. And the other person's like, nah, dude, it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
The universe just waiting for you to catch up, bro. Everyone, like, we can all see it. It's just you. And you're in your own little head playing these stories, and you're like, oh, maybe if they all see it, I might just, maybe I'll give it a crack. They can't all be wrong. It's
Hey, the videos, like in my program, I share with people. Like, this is the crazy thing. When people start doing the work, I share with them the first video I did from Speak and Inspire in 2018, so that they can see who I was and how vulnerable I was and how insecure I was and how scared I was, you know? And I think that's something that obviously is just so powerful, because you look at me now and you think, wow, you know, when he speaks, I can feel his energy, I can feel his power, this and that, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but I wasn't always like that. It was like this hidden beast, you know, that needed to be nurtured for 33 years. And then, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, when this thing happens when someone passes, it's like, why? Like, why do we need to wait for someone to pass in our family for us to wake up, for us to realize that shit, you know, life is short. Maybe I should follow my dreams. Maybe I should do what's right for me. And going back to like what you said about leaving your friends, it's like, I love all my friends, but they're not in alignment with my vision and mission. So I can't surround myself with them. I don't hate them. They're amazing people. But where I'm going and where I see myself in 5 years' time, it requires all of me. Like, I get pissed off with this, right? Because from like, let's say 13, I was friends with these guys. 13 all the way to 33, we partied, we took drugs, we freaking had the best fun, traveling as well. That's 20 years, right? So excuse me, if I want to spend the next 20 years with myself, creating my own freaking life, my own success, my own impact on the world, and doing something that I'm passionate about, that I love, and leaving a mark instead of hiding and thinking that I don't have greatness in me, you know? So it's interesting, because it's like, yeah, man, like, you spent all this time. I freaking gave my life to the parties, to the boys, to hanging out with them every freaking weekend. So let me do my thing, man. Let me be with myself. You know, I enjoy that now. Like, there is something beautiful about enjoying your own company. And there's so many people out there that are living unaware of their codependency, which is causing them to feel afraid, feel fear of being alone with themselves. I can't be with myself. So I'd rather stay in a toxic relationship where I'm not appreciated, but at least I'm not alone. So that's why self-love is important, because, You get to actually enjoy yourself. I think it's really healthy, especially even in a relationship as well. Embrace your individuality, embrace solitude, right? You are complete all on your own. Live your life and enjoy the relationship, but know that I'm not complete because of somebody else. I don't need something external to make me whole, to complete me. I know they say that, you complete me. It's like, so you're only half. You're not a full person. But I get it. The understanding of being in a healthy relationship is about inspiring each other, complimenting each other's lives, lifting each other up, and enjoying the journey, of growth. It's beautiful. It's empowering.
At this, I did want to ask how we start unpacking the journey of self-love, but at this particular juncture in the conversation, how far, I guess, is the easy question. The easiest way to ask this question is, how far is the distance between self-love and narcissism?
I don't even, I know where you're coming from, but I've never put them close together at all. Simply because I feel that from what I know, from what I've learned, that narcissism is just someone that's very disassociated. They're very hurt. Because when I always come back to this: treat someone the way that you would like to be treated. And when you have so much self-love, when you've taken the time to heal your trauma and your past, and to be very self-aware, and to fill your cup to be full, overflowing, to have so much self-love and appreciation for yourself, you don't have any pain to inflict on anyone, because all you have is love. All you want to see is people winning, supporting people, encouraging people. That's why I always say you can't give what you don't have. You're always showing clearly what you have within yourself by how you express yourself, by how you act. So if someone is very manipulative, controlling, dominating, doesn't have empathy or compassion, but pretends they do have it, they're sick. But really, they're just hurt. They're just hurt children. Hurt children that have experienced a lot of trauma, pain. And most likely, they've been through that in their childhood. They've experienced that, because it's always learned behavior. How did you learn to do that shit? Where'd it come from? How did you learn to treat someone like that? It came from somewhere. To your own benefit, to feel powerful, fuel your ego, right? That you've got it over this person because you know that when you say specific stuff to confuse them or whatever, it works. And because they're sensitive, or, I hear this a lot. People say, I'm an empath. And they prey on empaths where I'm sensitive. I'm fucking sensitive. For real, man. I'm sensitive. But you know what? I've changed my level of confidence in myself. I realize that if I keep letting people walk all over me, I won't get anywhere in life. If I don't start speaking my truth and building this muscle of communication, even when my voice shakes, then I'll drown. I'll keep living in fear. I'll keep being in my own way. I'll keep listening to all the negative thoughts in my mind telling me that I'm this and I'm that and I'm this and I can't do this. It's all a lot of shit. So people say that, and I say that's, you can say that, right? But let me tell you that you got to get out of your own way. It's like attaching yourself to a label and saying, well, this is what I have, and it's a freaking diagnosis and I'm stuck with it. And it's like, man, you got to fight back. You got to fight back to life and say, no, I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to do something that I'm afraid of, so that I can grow. And let me tell you, like, I believe that like communication skills, not only to be a speaker or to be in front of people, but to develop the muscle of communication so that you can be yourself and express yourself, it will change your life. Not only if it's to speak in front of people, but in relationships. It's the biggest problem. Friendships, relationships, anything. Because most people don't speak exactly what they want to say. They keep it in because they don't have that confidence under the repetition, you know, exercising it. Speak your truth. Confront these people that you don't confront, but you know you want to, but you don't because you're scared, because you say you're sensitive. I'm like, yeah, I'm sensitive, but I ain't taking shit no more, man. And you can choose. I'm gonna keep going this way, or you can go, you know what, there's something's got to change.
I find yeah, it's really, I guess, potent hearing you share communication as a fundamental tool for boundaries and establishing boundaries.
Man, it's the best thing you could ever do in your life. It's what I do now with girls. If I feel like something's out of alignment, if I feel like, you know what, nah, I'm too busy or whatever, I actually write it now. Before I used to say nothing because I don't want to hurt their feelings. It's like, screw their feelings. My feelings are more important. My peace is more important. Protecting my proximity, my space is more important. You know, if I have someone messaging me all the time, asking me questions, and I know they're interested in me, and I'm like, I'm too busy for this shit, man. I can't do it. Message and be clear and say, hey, this is what I'm doing at the moment. Really appreciate you. I'll catch you when I catch you. But I don't have time for you right now. But I never used to do that because I was always afraid.
Afraid of what they'd be thinking of you.
Don't want to say the wrong thing. Don't want to hurt their feelings. So we're always putting other people ahead of ourselves. This is self-love, man. I love me more than I love you. I'm the priority. And some people can say that's selfish, man. It's being selfish. Some people say, oh, you're so full of yourself. I'm so, thank you. That's a compliment. Because I take care of me. Right? So I save me. Now I can save everybody else who's interested in working on themselves and living their dreams. But if I don't take care of me first, I can't help no one.
Yeah, I find that profound. Again, tying it back to my own experience recently of becoming the dad and having this resilience because of the lack of sleep and all that stuff, and finding just the way that I was communicating when I was left to my own sort of baseline, and recognizing that my communications occur, you know, they're sharp, they're pointed, and they're pointing at me, you know, and I'm communicating with my loved ones the same way. It really brought home the emphasis to, yeah, wanting to transform and change. So in there, you've shared quite a bit in your story today, in terms of self-expression as well, as a critical, fundamental point of transformation, but then also your friends and your tribe, and, you know, what the Speak and Inspire tribe helped you transform. What do you feel like was, and maybe there's not just one particular moment. I know from my own transformational journey, there's never really just one, but what do you, I guess, for the listener tuning in, the journey of self-love, where do we start? Is it about self-expression? Is it about loving yourself enough to have the right people around you? What's some of the recipe to success for self-love, from Luke Mind Power?
There's so much, man.
Yeah, gotta start somewhere, bro.
Yeah,
They're tuning in. Help us out.
mean, the first thing that I started to do really was to listen to motivational videos on YouTube, Les Brown. And I'm definitely manifesting that. I'm going to be on stage with him before, because I know he's getting older, and Bob Proctor passed this year, and
yeah, that was,
you know,
heartbreaking.
Yeah. So, but I mean, in terms of like the core of self-love, obviously learning personal development and getting inspired and, you know, listening to others that you feel you resonate with. You know, one thing I always say, like, for example, if you resonate with me, that means you have what I have in you. Right. And so with self-love, it definitely was the mirror work in Speak and Inspire that that brought me back home. And, you know, Lisa would always say that as well at her conferences and her events and stuff. She would say, welcome home.
Tell us about the mirror work, what it actually entails.
Yeah, so during the Speak and Inspire program, there's, I think it's day 5 or 6, where you know, she says, what would it be like if you were to, you know, speak to yourself with no judgment, and just be able to look at yourself and talk to yourself. And so there was these 3 statements which I had to speak into the mirror. So look at myself in the mirror, and it was something that I had to do daily. And the first one was you know, saying 7 things that I'm proud of. So I'd say, Luke, I'm proud of you for doing this program. Luke, I'm proud of you for believing in yourself. Then there'd be 7 statements of, you know, forgiveness. And I'd say, Luke, I forgive you for abusing your body with drugs and alcohol. Luke, I forgive you for having an abortion. And then there's the last one, which was the commitment. So I would say, Luke, I'm committed to completing this program. Luke, I'm committed to doing this mirror work every single day for the next 30 days. Luke, I'm committed to being the best version of myself. Luke, I'm committed to going to the gym every single day. So the moment that I did that exercise was the moment that I realized that I was afraid of myself.
Tell us how that,
and that
came to
that
be.
pissed me off.
Yeah, how did
That pissed me off so much, because we're so unconscious. We're like freaking robots, Rick. And you brushing your teeth, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, not even consciously thinking, you know, like, would you ever have a conversation with yourself? Would you ever stop and like be proud of who you are? And like, and it's just not something that we do. And again, there's just so much noise, you know, family, friends, TV, movies, freaking magazines, social media, everything. You know, it's no wonder why people feel lost and they don't know who they are, because their mind is so programmed with everything outside, which is not who they truly are. But I get it. Your environment shapes you. So you need to make the decision. How do I want to be programmed? Right?
Boom. Because that's, yeah, sorry.
So yeah, just finishing off with the mirror work, that moment for me was like pivotal. It was crazy. It was like realizing that I was not comfortable with looking at myself, you know, 33 years old, not comfortable with looking at myself in the mirror, at my own self. Like, this is who I'm living in, this body. I'm living with myself, and I'm not comfortable with who I am, like into my own eyes. So that was the driver of like, well, that's a joke. That's ridiculous. You know, it pissed me off. Yeah, for real. And I was just like, this is not right. So,
Yeah,
so
basically,
yeah, you know, because people, that's what I'm saying. Like, people are afraid to be with themselves. And so just before that program, you know, I was seeing somebody, and I was finding it difficult to leave, because I mean, you know, it was available. And then I realized that it was unhealthy for me, because she wasn't inspiring me. She kind of brought me down one time when I was with her, and I was like, you know what, no more. And it was that point where I said, no more girlfriends, which was something that I'd never done, because, you know, I'm always out here searching, when am I going to meet this, when am I going to get a girlfriend, when am I going to be with someone, when am I going to get married, you know? And so that was another point of saying, well, that's it, no more girlfriends, man, let's just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
So the mirror work completely changed my life, because what it did is it made me come back home to myself, and it helped me to appreciate myself and to not be afraid of me anymore. And then I kept doing it. I kept practicing. I still do it today. I just like it. And it's what it's done is it's helped me now to just like converse with myself. I talk to myself all the time. Right? Because
people say it's the first sign of insanity. I say it's what keeps me sane.
but the thing is, like, if you stay in your head, you're dead. Most of the time, we're in our heads all the time, right? And there's some power to be aware of in your spoken word, right? And sometimes it's great to just check in with yourself and tell yourself that you're really proud of yourself and answer a question that you've been thinking about, because you'll surprise yourself and realize that you've got the answer. So it's just having that good connection with yourself, just like you would with your best friend, just like you would with your parents or your siblings or your friends at work or whatever. You know, yeah, if you're walking around the shopping center and you're talking to yourself, people will think that you're crazy or you're weird or whatever. But I mean, we got earphones and shit like that already. So how do you know you're not on the phone?
Yeah. There's one of the things I find myself saying in my coaching every now and then, and I'm conscious that I don't overshare this piece too much because sometimes it slips into the invitation for us to feel like we're victims. But did you ever stand a chance? You know, and in what you were sharing just then, some of it is, you know, you talked about media, social media. You know, I remember just billboards, and you know, there was these moments where I started to really realize, even as I was walking down just a Coles or Woolworths or Safeway, if you're tuning in from the States, down the supermarket aisle, right? And you just see like just a beauty aisle, just toothbrush, toothpaste, and all these airbrushed photos of just people just pouring into you. Yeah. And that's how you should look. This is how you should be. Even our conceptions of this is how you should be as a man in a relationship, you know, give or take or whatever, you know. And then, yeah, like not having an awareness of exactly what it is that you want from deep down, like you said, from this intuitive sense and center of what it is that you really want. I often end up asking my clients, it's like, you know, yes, you may not have that awareness, but just before you run away and start judging yourself again for not having that awareness, just temper it for a sec. Like, did you ever stand a chance? You know, like, do you believe that, or what are your thoughts potentially on, and I sort of have my own baggage and judgments around this, so I can't help but bring it to this question, I guess, around sort of the capitalistic model that's driven by us somewhat feeling inadequate, and it thrives on our inadequacies to then consume as healthy consumers. Your thoughts on that?
Again, that's why self-love is so important. It's having the awareness that when you learn to love yourself, you'll never want to be anyone else. And you're able to accept yourself as you are, and everything else will fall into place, because your job is not to compare your life to anybody else. Yeah, there's the whole, you know, beauty and attractiveness of models and all this kind of stuff. But again, you have to program. You're the one that's in control of your mind. You're the one that teaches your mind. You're the teacher. So you have to be so aware of what it is that I'm telling myself that I want to believe. And if you don't do that, then you will be programmed in a specific way, and majority of it will be exactly how they want you to think. And you'll fall into the system. And if you feel lost right now, you know, I hope that this is something that makes you think, hey, maybe I need to lean into learning to really love myself and discover my truth. Because it's no coincidence that, you know, I don't know if it's in the Bible, but the truth will set you free. It truly will. You know, it's what you hold inside that you're so afraid of, or the shame from the past, or whatever it is that you haven't spoken about. And that's the other thing I always say is, you know, everything that you reveal, you heal. And if you're not speaking it, you're storing it, and that shit gets heavy. And it's the same thing for me in my own healing journey. And one of the reasons why I've grown so much is because of my transparency, vulnerability, and my own podcast. Because every week for the last 3 years, I've been speaking. And then obviously all of my other social platforms and you know, expressing myself and, you know, communicating. It's healing. Because I'm no longer suppressing my freaking emotions or my feelings anymore. I'm not hiding myself. being quiet and dimming my light for other people's satisfaction, playing small. It's like, man, you didn't come here for that. I believe everyone has a gift. And it's truly when you take that time to disconnect yourself from everything that doesn't complement your life, doesn't empower you or inspire you or uplift you to feel like you can do something better than what you're doing right now, is where you'll find your greatness. But you got to take that chance, you know, like Lisa says, man, if you, at the risk of not falling, you'll never fly. And this is the opportunity that you have with your life. It doesn't matter how old you are. I've got clients that are in their late 60s and they're freaking learning to love themselves, and it's coming off prescription medication because they're happy. Like the body thrives off you feeling good. It's not freaking rocket science. Like people are sick because they're not happy. Because they're completely disconnected from themselves. They don't trust themselves. They don't believe in themselves. They don't love themselves. So they're completely in a disassociated state. Over time, stress. The body says, F you, man. I need some drugs to cope. Or I'm sick. You know, this is like crazy shit, man. Like, it's amazing what you can do when you start doing what's right for you and start paying attention to what's in your environment and what is draining you.
Yeah, I remember clearly one of the deep realizations from, and I know that everybody's depression is different, but struggling with depression for 6 years, for me, one of the big takeaways was the realization that depression is like suppression, the opposite of expression, you know, and allowing it and letting it go, letting it flow. Look, man, for those that want to tune in more, obviously there's a lot of supportive material on your Instagram page. I know you've got a YouTube channel as well. The podcast exists. What's the best way for people to touch base with Luke Mindpower?
Yeah, it's at Luke Mindpower on all social platforms. You can check out my website. It's lukemindpower.com/home. And yeah, you'll find me everywhere. It's just Luke Mindpower, on Facebook as well. Yeah.
Brother, I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing yourself so openly, so vulnerably. And yeah, just, I know it's not just today's conversation that we get to revel in. It's 33 plus years worth of work that got you to all this stuff that you've put into it. So really appreciate you showing up each step of the journey to inform this conversation with us here today. So thank you, man. Really appreciate that. On behalf of myself, the Inspired Evolution audience and tribe here, wishing you all the best on your journey forwards. And as always, much love to the audience and tribe tuning in.
I received that, man. Thanks a lot.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, leave us a comment. And if you want to stay in tune for the new episodes launching every Monday, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay inspired to evolve.